Thank you for joining Dr. James, Rini, and I, the Curiosity Conduit, Dana Ortiz, for a look behind the curtain of letting destiny deliver. Dr. Rini is a practicing psychotherapist for the last 46 years, and I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 26 years' experience, and I'm now a psychology student. Please feel free to add comments or ask questions below, and make sure to subscribe and like. Dr. Rini or I will be happy to answer any questions you have. So today, we are in chapter 2, and we will be discussing a very famous study in the neuroscience world and what it teaches us about how our brain works. This conversation may lead to feelings of inspiration and curiosity, and it could also create some inner movement. That's all welcome. Life will reveal your destiny through all opportunities you keep yourself available for. So allow yourself to stay open, and let's see what destiny delivers. Dr. Rini, what is this famous study? And please tell us about it.
All right. Well, it started as a medical procedure on epileptics, which there was no cure for. And there was this brain matter, we'll say, that they didn't know that it served anything, any function. And so what they found is if they cut that, it would cure them of the epileptic seizures. So after they had the procedure done, they didn't feel any different. They didn't notice any changes other than that they were, free of the epilepsy. And this psychologist, Dr. Michael Gazzaniga, came in and did some, now classic studies on these patients. And what he did is he set up a computer screen where they had to look at a dot. And by looking at that dot, the way our vision is, whatever went into the left eye goes into the mute right brain or the unconscious, because the unconscious can't talk. And whatever went into the right eye went into the talking left brain. And he then proceeded to do these experiments on different patients, testing their, to see how consistent it was with their cognitive abilities, with their emotional responses and other things. And they were consistent, 100% across the board. And what he was really able to do is to really give us a tremendous insight into how the two brains work.
Okay, so in reading about some of these experiments, it shows that one part of the brain can act without the other even knowing. So, what does that say about how well we really know ourselves?
Okay, great question. Really, each brain can work without the other one knowing. There's an old saying, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
This is true. Listen, and I'm holding up for anybody listening, I'm holding up my hands. I can make them look like little Muppets. Like, I feel like these things have a mind of their own.
Huh.
I will steal pens, but I'm not trying to steal pens. I'll move stuff and I don't remember.
Okay, so try to conceive of this. We really have two brains, not just one. And they're opposite. You got male and female. They form a relationship. Okay, but they're opposites in nature, but yet they have to cooperate and resolve conflicts and understand each other and and so the two hemispheres are like that, and they're two different personalities. The unconscious has one personality, the conscious mind has another personality. The conscious mind is driven by the ego, the unconscious is driven by the self. Okay? So how does one know oneself? I guess I will quote Carl Jung, my favorite person to quote. And he said, self-knowledge is knowing the effect that you have on other people.
I love that.
Well, it says so much because it does. How people experience you tells you what your energy is that you're putting out there, you know? And I've never heard anyone give that as a definition of knowing yourself.
Well, what I love about it, because I love people so much, is that still in the self knowledge is still connected with others.
Right, because there is connection. I had
There is, yes.
when I went into private practice some 37 years ago, because I was working for agencies, I ran into a former colleague, and I told him that I was, going into private practice full time. And he said something to me I'll never forget. He goes, "You'll do well. You have a way of making people feel good."
I can vouch for that.
And, it's like, wow, I never thought about that. I don't do it intentionally, but I do like to make people feel good. It doesn't matter, you know. And he was right, So, but I learned something about myself that I never thought without him having put it into words like that. So often people will give me feedback that I would never have thought myself, but because they've said it, they're a mirror. People are mirrors. They allow, you use a mirror to look at the back of your head. You can't use your eyes. And some people are better mirrors than others in terms of reflecting back who we really are. What is that saying we use today? Where people are just, I can't think of the term. I always forget it. Gaslighting. See, gaslighting is a bad mirror there. They're purposely causing us to not know ourselves. So it's the communication between the two brains. So the effects we have on others and reflecting on your behavior, not overthinking it and not having the tendency to always go, oh my God, I don't believe I said that. Always, hearing it in the worst case scenario. Okay. Temper it with knowing the effect that it has on the person. I had one session a month or so back with a client, and I felt really like I didn't give him good advice, or, wasn't there the way I guess I thought I should have been. And I was thinking, yeah, he probably will quit coming now because of that. But he comes to session, he goes, last session was really helpful, helped me a lot, get out of my funk and whatever. And so again, the feedback, I reflected and saw it one way, but his feedback, unsolicited, told me I was wrong. Now, other times it'll be validated one way or another, but it's important to use people's feedback as a reality test in a sense. To know yourself, to get back to that question, answer.
I love that too. This is good. So, and I know this is going to be vague, but hopefully you can really dial it in the way it was meant to. So, why do we sometimes do things that don't make sense to ourselves?
Give a specific example.
So, if we're doing something and then whether it's putting keys in the refrigerator, okay? Like,
Well, that's
doing something.
dementia more often than not.
Listen, I don't have dementia, and I've done this.
I know, and that's why that's it. More often than not, that's a sign.
Okay, so just little things that don't make sense. It's like, why did I even do that? Like, that's silly.
But that's okay. It's a great question because and that's not just putting the keys in the refrigerator; it's putting them in because when you're putting your keys down, you're doing it unconsciously. You're not thinking about what you're doing. You see, like where some people they have a certain place they always put their key, so they're not only do they put it in the same place, but they have to be conscious of it.
Yeah.
So when I used to, was single and leave my house, I get to my car and go, did I lock the door? Because I would doubt myself, and then I go back and it's always locked. It was never not locked. So we do a lot of things unconsciously, and then when we try to understand it consciously, we can't. And as in these studies, we'll come up with an interpretation for our behavior, but usually it's an inaccurate interpretation because we're missing certain pieces of information that the unconscious has and is holding back. So we don't have all the facts by which to make our interpretation.
So in those cases where we're trying to fill in the blanks consciously and can be incorrect, what's a practice to help stop that?
Stop asking why. Really, I'm telling you, every person, they think somehow if they know why, they'll magically be freed, which, first of all, doesn't work for 99% of the people. Secondly, you can't look in the back of the book and verify that your answer to the why question is correct. There's no way of knowing whether because it's hypothetical. And then lastly, the insight generally doesn't produce change. Change should come first, then the insight. Change doesn't tend to lead to, insight doesn't tend to lead to change, but change can lead to insight. I have clients and, they experience this change and they go, gosh, I wish I would have done this 10 years ago. They always say that. I wish I would have done this 20 years ago, because they didn't know what they were missing in a sense, and then the insight that they get, the ability to look back on their lives and get a whole different perspective on it because they're in a different place.
And see, that's one thing I just don't believe in. Like, I understand where someone would say, I wish this, or I wish that. They just, I wouldn't. They probably weren't ready. So,
And that's what I tell them. They weren't ready. And they weren't ready
yeah.
for various reasons.
No. Okay, so I am going to read a portion of your book that I have pulled out there. More often than not, the first step of a conscious decision occurs at the unconscious level, which is then communicated to the conscious mind by way of a spontaneous idea, a hunch, or an intuition. In this way, the unconscious plays a role. So it is not conscious effort alone that is responsible for awareness or behavior. In some way or other, the unconscious, with its barely discernible goals and intentions, has its finger in the behavioral pie. I don't know what this behavioral pie is, side note. But anyway, okay, therefore, it behooves the conscious mind to understand what the conscious knows or is trying to express.
The unconscious.
The unconscious, yeah, sorry. Let me read that again. Therefore, it behooves the conscious mind to understand the unconscious, knows or is trying to express.
You did that a little earlier too. You said conscious instead of unconscious.
Oh,
Just to correct that. Again, if you don't know what's going on in the unconscious, you don't have all the facts. Like I'll give you this example comes to mind. Jay Leno, when he was doing the late night show, would do go out on the street and do these things, jaywalking he called it. And then on this one occasion, he had photos of famous people, but all you could see were their lips. And he'd go up to men and women and he'd ask them, would you kiss those lips? And of course they'd say yes or no. And then he'd show them the entire face, you see. So one example I can remember, he showed the lips, but they were Marilyn Manson's lips, if you know who Marilyn Manson is. He wore makeup and, was whatever he was.
let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
I know Marilyn Manson. Go ahead. Proceed.
So anyway, guys would say yes, they would kiss those lips.
They're
then-
delicious.
And then when they reveal that, oh no, they wouldn't kiss those lips. And then there were lips they'd say no to, but when they'd see the whole face, they'd say yes to. So, there's a saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. And that's the conscious mind. The conscious mind only sees parts. The unconscious sees the forest. So if you can't see all the trees, you really can't tell what the forest looks like. So the unconscious is always there, subtly reaching out to us, trying to guide us in the right direction. We were unconscious long before we were conscious. The unconscious is much more competent at helping us survive and grow than the conscious mind is. Okay, it's the conscious mind that gets us in trouble most of the time with the worrying and the catastrophizing and the what ifs and the second guessing and misinterpreting. So yeah, the more information you have at your disposal, the better interpretations you can make. And that's why the saying, assuming makes an ass out of you and me, because assuming is making interpretations without having all the information.
There was one thing that I read from one of Carl Jung's books, and he says, it was brilliant. Assume you know nothing. And then proceed. How about I like that? I do too. I was like, brilliant.
that goes along with, not asking why all the time.
Yeah.
And it's the conscious mind that has to ask why. It's the logical, linear, problem-solving mind. And so, but the why is a distraction. It takes us down a wild goose chase every time.
I love the assume you know nothing too, because it clears everything. It clears everything for you.
Consciously, it allows now the unconscious to emerge.
Yes.
In the same way as you stop trying consciously to think of a name, it now allows the unconscious to do it, and obviously it does it because it gives us a name at some point in time that we couldn't get consciously.
Yes. Okay. So getting down to one of the last questions here. So one experiment showed a patient walking away after seeing a hidden command, then making up a reason for it.
Hey, but the command was walk. The command to the unconscious mind was walk.
Okay.
And what the patient did was get up and start to walk out of the van. Go ahead.
Okay. And do you think our choices are influenced by things we didn't consciously notice? So, like a television commercial, or smells, or memory, or anything like that. I would, I think about this on commercials and sales and stuff like that. How we're influenced by things that we don't consciously notice. Is there?
Oh, absolutely. And that's an example of it. I had a client years ago that I wanted to hypnotize, but she didn't want to do it because it was against her religion. And one day she finally said, "Okay, I'm willing to be hypnotized." And she came back and she goes, "I'm mad at my church." And I go, "Why is that?" She goes, "'Cause they put us in a trance in church." You see, so on the one hand, they're preaching, "Don't do that." And I don't think it's intentional, but what she experienced going on in the church was the same feeling and, thought process that she had when she was in church. And so that's what I'm saying is that the conscious mind knows very little and thinks it knows a lot. And then whatever assumption or interpretation it makes, it thinks it's the right one. And that happens all the time in relationships. I'm interpreting your behavior, you know, and no matter what I say, you are right and I'm wrong. And then you characterize me with that. So anything I do is then seen through the lens of that behavior. Even though you're 100% wrong, you can still verify to yourself. And again, that's why, they say a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Because people think they know it thoroughly and completely, and they don't. And because of that, they make a lot of analytical errors.
When they don't know that they don't know.
Right. And think they do know.
Yes, and think they do know.
Oh, yeah. That's what happens when you don't know you don't know. You think you do know.
No, I just know I don't know. I don't know anything.
Well, in that place, you know you don't know.
Yeah.
See, and you don't know.
That's what I progressed to. I know I don't know. I don't know anything. But no, this was really great because this is just another conversation that anybody can listen to help break down those barriers to really understand what's happening within themselves and know that the unconscious mind is there.
Okay. And the unconscious, like in that experiment, the unconscious had the word walk flash to it. And he just automatically it's an impulse. It comes across as an impulse. So he got up and the experimenter asked, "Where are you going?" He goes, "Oh, I'm going in the house to get a Coke." You see? So that was how his conscious mind interpreted the urge to walk was to go get a Coke. But no, the urge to walk came from the subliminal cue of the card that was not flashed to him. So if you can do that so easily, of course, there's thousands of stimuli that your unconscious is hit with all the time.
Yeah.
And I want to use this example. Years ago when Tiger Woods was Tiger Woods, golf-wise, he had won this tournament in Tiger Woods fashion, and this commentator comes up to Tiger and goes, "How'd you do it?" And Tiger Woods goes, "I don't know." And the commentator goes, "Come on, you're Tiger Woods, you know." And then Tiger Woods went on to give him an answer for him. But his first answer was correct because athletes, when they're performing at the best, at their best are performing unconsciously. Their conscious mind isn't dictating to them what they're doing. They're just going, with the flow, as they call it, or being, what do they call that, in the zone. It's a different zone of awareness. It's unconscious zone of awareness. I was watching Sports Center, and they were talking about the athlete, and he was one of the sports guys said, yeah, he was using his unconscious, which you do not hear much. Many years ago, Michael Jordan, was Michael Jordan, and the sports headline was Michael Jordan was unconscious. Not that he was unconscious on the floor, but because he was performing. So, so on the one hand, it's good to let go of that, and the conscious mind, if it can become aware of how it's being manipulated in certain ways, like in advertising for children, they show these commercials, but they edit a lot of things out, so they make it look fun and exciting, and kids will tend to want the items. But they found if they go back before the kid buys it and show them how those scenes have been manipulated, the kids are less likely to want to buy the item. See, but so again, what's deleted, what they don't know, keeps them from making the right choice. But it's purposely been deleted. So that siren, I don't know if they can hear it, is very symbolic. See, it's a warning. Because the knowledge that we have today to manipulate people, and advertisers and salespeople, they use psychology all over the place.
It is mind-blowing to see where it is. It's literally everywhere.
Yeah, because it's a science,
It is. It's
and what it does, it takes away free will. Again, it takes away your ability to arrive at destiny because you're not choosing, you're being manipulated thinking that you're choosing. Okay, like, is the capital of Kentucky Louisville or Louisville?
I don't know.
Take a guess.
No.
You take a guess.
No, I know where you're going. I read this in my book this week. Just say it. Where will people go with that?
Well, usually they'll say Louisville or Louisville, one or the other,
Mm-hmm.
where the real answer is Frankfurt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what I've given you there is the illusion of choice. Okay. So people have this illusion of choice, but you really don't, because I did not give you an option that was the truth. So you then lose the ability to truly choose. And again, it's just rampant. And that's why mental health issues are so rampant, and especially anxiety and depression, because those are the classic symptoms that appear when people get stuck.
Okay.
And they need new awareness to get unstuck.
And I think this is helping. I think this definitely helps. So we have reached the end. Is there anything else you'd like to add other than a Chinese philosopher joke? Which, by the way, people really liked the last episode. It was good feedback on that.
So does that mean don't tell a joke?
Don't tell the joke. Is there anything else you'd like to?
He and Saucy was my joke, so that's interesting.
These naughty jokes.
You truly are a moderator. Sure. I don't think we went into the experiments enough to really convey the beauty of the two brains that came across in these studies. So this is something we may want to.
So what I'll do, in previous ones, I kind of expanded upon in the next recording, and we can do that next time and just expand upon. So, okay, well, thank you for joining Dr. Rini and I on this journey behind the curtain of letting destiny deliver. Join us next time as we will be discussing how your brain and body work in cycles, revealing why tuning into your natural rhythms of rest, action, and unconscious awareness isn't just healthy, but essential for clarity, creativity, and emotional balance. Remember, questions or comments are welcome below. Now ask yourself, what part of your life might destiny be trying to speak through right now? Keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, destiny isn't something you chase, it's something you allow. Until next time.
Oh, wait a minute.
I knew it. That's why I looked at you. What? That's why I looked at you. I knew it. What do you want to say? I heard it and I knew it. Go ahead.
Well, this joke that I'm not allowed to tell.
Oh, go ahead.
No. I thought this. People can comment on whether they want to hear the joke or not. We'll leave it up to them.
Oh. Okay. Until next time, be well.